Welcome to the Make Your Brain Happy podcast, hosted by Veronique Cardone, MS, the podcast where you'll learn how to live your life to its fullest potential. This is for anyone who's interested in the science of the brain or wants to seize the power of positive thinking, enhanced mental performance, and a healthy lifestyle.
Welcome, Lisa Feiner, to the Make Your Brain Happy podcast with Veronique Cardone. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Lisa Feiner is a certified health and wellness coach, brain longevity certified specialist, and the co-founder and board chair of this amazing organization, Sharp Again Naturally. We all want to be sharp again, right? She educates the public and medical community about cause of memory loss and how to address them, what we can do about it, right? Since 1992, she has been a volunteer and board member of the New Jewish Home in New York, working with elders who have dementia. And this is wonderful what you're doing for the community, Lisa. And Lisa speaks to the worried well, as we call them, about preventing memory loss, and coaches individuals and families who want to take steps to regain cognitive health or help others in their family regain cognitive health. And Lisa has an MBA from Columbia University and so much more. Also, she's a graduate from the Health Institute for Integrative Nutrition. So you're also a certified coach from the Alzheimer's Foundation, aren't you?
It's a brain longevity specialist from the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation. Yes,
that's amazing. How long does it take to get that certification?
It's a short course, but it brings in additional information. Sharp Again Naturally is always trying to expand what we know. Yes. And collaborate with other organizations.
Yes. Okay, so tell me, that's the perfect segue. How did you get involved with Sharp Again Naturally? What's the vision, mission of this organization? Tell us more about it.
So Sharp Again was originally founded back in 2012, and we were so excited. There was a group of holistic practitioners who heard that people had been able to regain their memory. And we felt like the information just had to get out there. And that was our initial vision. Our initial purpose was to educate people, not only the public, but also the medical community about these causes of memory loss, thinking that even those who already had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, that something could be done to help them. And as the years have gone by, we were outliers then. We were the only ones talking about the possibility of either preventing or reversing memory loss. As the years have gone by, there's been much more research to support this approach and lots of success stories. But what we found at Sharp Again, because we were talking directly to the public, we found it wasn't enough just to educate. We wanted to help people take steps to improve their memory. And part of the reason for that is that we have a number of health coaches who work with our organization, many of whom are board certified now. It's a new certification for health coaches. And
you are providing a certification. Your institute is providing a certification. That's what you said.
No, it's the national board of health and wellness coaches that provide the board certification. But we know that we can help people implement recommendations that their doctors are making. It's hard for them to often do it on their own. So we are really the only organization that we know of who are educating people about the causes of memory loss, steps they can take to prevent it. And also, we've created new programming so that people can afford to be part of a group working on memory and improving memory.
Yeah, we're going to get to this later. It's very exciting. But can you share a few statistics about Alzheimer's disease and dementia? Because it's quite horrifying. And it's also, I know it's people fear more to get Alzheimer's disease than to get cancer. in the United States?
Right. Well, the numbers that we see that are put out by the various organizations that track this, the predictions are pretty dire. So, for example, because you had asked about it, I had
Yes.
looked up some statistics,
Yes.
and they're not. They don't make us feel very, very comfortable. Right now in America, we have 5.8 million cases of Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's, don't forget, is only one cause of dementia.
Yes.
So you have your other causes as well, that if you add those all together, the prevalence of dementia is even higher. But if we say that right now, 1 in 10 people over the age of 65 has Alzheimer's disease, and 1 in 3 seniors dies of dementia, we also can say that 1/3 of Americans over the age of 85 is afflicted with dementia. So right now, the statistics are not great. Unfortunately, the prognosis is not good. If we look at the projected number of people age 65 and older in the US, so as I mentioned, right now we have about 5.8 million, but the prediction is that in 2030 we're going to have 8.4 million cases, and by 2050 that's going to go to 13.8 million cases. So you might see I understand that the US may not even be the fastest growing country in terms of new cases, but this is a global problem. Yes. And it's caused by many of the things that are not only in our food supply, but in our environment. It has to do with our lifestyles. There are many, many things that are impacting our brains.
Yeah, we will talk about this later. So your audience who is your audience, and also like what services and programs are you providing? Like what are you doing to help?
Right. So let's start with who is our audience. You mentioned the term worried well. I mean, there are many people who are approaching retirement age, and they're concerned about their cognition. Some of them already have what we would call subjective cognitive impairment. They've already started noticing changes in their own memory.
Well, I'm losing my memory right now, but I think it's the COVID stress I heard.
So there is this COVID fog that people are talking about.
Yes.
So we'll talk a little bit about that. But certainly I'm hearing a lot from the children of people who are in their 70s and 80s who are concerned about their parents, and sometimes even grandchildren. We're also targeting people who may have gotten an initial diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment, because what we know is that if there's intervention early in these earlier stages, there's a higher likelihood that people will be able to regain cognitive function. The longer you wait and the further down that path you are, the more difficult it is.
Yes. Yes. And we're going to talk about Dr. Bredesen a little bit later in the interview. So,
let me get to the second half of your question. So this is why we feel at Sharp Again Naturally so strongly that we actually offer programs that can help people now to start taking action right away. So our education and our outreach is ongoing. And we had a whole series of e-blasts directed to people who are at home with loved ones during COVID, because there was certainly a particular need, and people were isolated. It was sort of, adding insult to injury when you look at what's causing memory loss, right? It's a lot of it's social isolation and not exercising, all of these things.
So what were you providing in those emails? What were you doing?
Suggestions for keeping your brain sharp and helping those in your family, perhaps, who have Alzheimer's or who have memory loss, activities you can do with them, reminding people it's important to get out and exercise and walk, keeping your brain stimulated, getting up and dancing, engaging the body and the mind. So we had a whole series of things that people could do with loved ones at home, or, you could do yourself. So we continue to provide this kind of information all throughout the year. People can sign up for our newsletters, which are typically targeting a particular one of the causes of memory loss that we've identified. And then more recently, we have started these, what we called Sharper Mind small groups. So there's small groups of about like 5 to 7 people who come together working with a health coach to learn more about how to keep their brains healthy and to actually set individual goals that they will work on during the program.
So are you providing the health coach, or they have to find, how does that work? Let's say I want to be in one of those groups.
Right. So we have facilitators for the groups who are health coaches. We're also going to be developing a database, what we call like a referral directory, that will include practitioners, health coaches, and other providers who address the causes of memory loss, who
are passionate about it.
They're passionate. They've made this their life work.
And they may send you people to get in those groups. That's what you're talking about.
They may. A lot of people who come to Sharp Again on their own, they find us on the web, or they're told about us from family or friends. They call in, and we also can help direct them to one of those groups. We also are still talking, doing webinars.
Yes, I was going to ask.
Not only our webinars, but to groups that ask us to give them for their own, members. So we continue to do that. And, we really didn't miss a beat because so much of our work was virtual to begin with.
Yes.
But we're making sure that we're trying to reach out to communities, disadvantaged communities. I don't know if your audience knows, but people of color have a higher likelihood of developing dementia. Those groups need to be informed and helped in these ways as well.
And so let me ask you, so you have identified what you call the 10, I think, pillars of clarity, or the roadmap to clarity.
Right. So we have these 10 causes, if you will. There are really about 12 of them, and we're monitoring others that, we know the research is there, and we know contribute to memory loss. And these are things like,
let's explore them. I have the list in front of me. You see, I'm a good girl. I prepare for the interview. So I have my little cheat sheet that you can get from, Sharp Again. So what are the 10 reversible causes of dementia? Because people want hope, right? People want to be able to say,
absolutely,
okay, I'm afraid. What can I do about it? So
there is a lot of hope.
Yes, exactly. It's exciting.
Okay. So we can address nutrition. Nutrition's a biggie.
Yes.
That includes supplementation, because we know that there are certain supplements that also help the brain.
Yes.
There are a big category that not that many practitioners deal in, but that is becoming more, more able to be treated, are toxins. So the toxins, it could be in our environment, our home environment, let's say, when we're looking at cleaners, even personal care products. We look at air pollution, which is very highly, there's a direct causation with memory loss. There are toxins in our food. So toxins are a big deal. The effects of some prescription medications do contribute to memory loss. Then you have metals, heavy metals in the environment, sometimes in your teeth. Heavy metals can be found in some vaccines.
In the water too.
In water, in
the air.
In many places. Silver fillings are one of the primary ways that people have heavy metals in their body.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at Flint, Michigan, and you see lead in water, and lead obviously is a neurotoxin.
Yeah.
So there are many of these neurotoxins in the environment. Hormonal imbalances, these are the thyroid, gender hormones like estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, cortisol is a hormone. Most of the time, except for cortisol, when they're too low, they're problematic. If cortisol is too high, that's problematic for the body.
For sure, too high cortisol is really giving you brain fog. There's no doubt.
Right. It causes inflammation in the brain.
Yes.
It's definitely problematic. And frankly, so many people have been anxious and stressed during COVID for many reasons. There's food insecurity and people have lost their jobs and they haven't been able to go out and we don't have social interaction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of these things cause anxiety and stress. So we have to manage our stress. Yes. And that is another area that we look at, and that's key. Infections in the body. A lot of times we have low-level infections that we may not even be aware of. So they could be an infection in your mouth. Sometimes people have dental procedures, and that can result in an infection that is asymptomatic. Lyme disease.
Mold in your house that people are not aware of. Check your house for mold. It's very important.
Absolutely. People who have, older people especially, who get frequent urinary tract infections can lead to dementia-like symptoms. So that's very common. So these low-level infections can do a lot of damage. And we talk about the lifestyle factors. I've alluded to them, but physical activity, mental stimulation, and social interaction.
You mean like doing puzzles and crosswords and Sudokus and
those do help. They do keep your brain engaged.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a website called brainhq.com, and that's by Posit Science, and they have the research to show that their activities really do help promote brain health and prevent memory loss. So that's one possibility. But yes, keeping the brain engaged, that could be so many things. Taking a Zoom class. It could be internal or external. So it could be generating ideas yourself, or journaling, or doing something that's engaging the brain. It could also be coming from the outside, like listening to a lecture or something like that.
Or socializing. Socializing is very important as well.
So important. We are social creatures. Human beings are social creatures. And as much as we can do this and we can engage over Zoom, there is nothing that takes the place of being with our loved ones and our friends. And we can do that safely by social distancing and wearing masks. But literally being in the presence of other people is very important.
Yeah, and then I think the last one is sleep, the importance of sleep, which is in the lifestyle, but it's very important because this is during sleep that your brain is recovering. It's the beauty sleep for the brain.
So two things really are happening, two main things in terms of your brain and memory. One is the brain detoxifies during deep sleep.
Yes.
It literally sloughs off those plaques that tend to build up, and that is taken away through your cerebral spinal fluid.
Yes,
it's critical. And then the other part of that is that during sleep, your memories are consolidated. So you need to sleep in order to hold on to what you've been exposed to during the day.
And I always say to people, if you want to have good souvenirs when you get older, you need to sleep well, because this is how you're going to keep them.
That is very true. Yeah. And then finally, one thing I do want to mention is trauma, and our newsletter coming out in a few weeks is about emotional trauma, but this includes physical and emotional trauma that, if not treated, can also lead to memory loss. So that kind of rounds out our causes. And then I just do want to mention there's been a lot in the news and more research lately about hearing loss. And so hearing loss does seem to go hand in hand with dementia. And I would just encourage people who have hearing problems to get them treated. And frankly, that's what we're talking about for many of these things. If you've experienced trauma, get it treated. See a professional. If you're having sleep problems,
take care of it.
Yeah, see someone that's what they specialize in, and you'll be helped.
Yeah. And in fact, there are things we can try to act upon, like, trying to drink clean water and trying to eat as organic as we can, which we know is more expensive and so forth. But there's a lot of things you say here that if we decide we can act upon, right? Sleep well, exercise, eat well, walk, be active, be socially engaged. Now, I'm a nutritionist, but I'm going to ask you the question, even if I know the answer. So what should you eat? What is very good for your brain, and also the vitamins? What do you need?
Right. So from a food point of view, there are a number of things, right, that relate to food. One is what foods help the brain. So those are things that typically contain omega-3 oils and healthy fats. We talk about that.
Yes. So fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, or sardines.
Those are the smash fish, right?
Yes.
Sardines, mackerel, not king mackerel, but mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring. Those are the smash fish.
And by the way, if I may add something, that the smaller the fish, the less polluted it will be.
The less time in the ocean.
Yes. So think about this when you eat fish. Go small. Okay.
Very true.
So, or you can have omega
nuts and seeds, like walnuts. Walnuts are shaped like the brain. They're a good brain food.
Yes.
Things like avocados. They contain healthy fats.
Yeah, unsaturated fats, which are very good, because everything else that's saturated fat or not so healthy food like processed food, it is containing a lot of free radicals, and free radicals are destroying your cells, including what's in the brain, whereas having a lot of antioxidants is going to be very good for your health in general, right? And your brain.
So olive oil, especially extra virgin olive oil,
yes,
is healthy for the brain. And coconut oil also contains MCT, medium chain triglycerides, which provide an alternative energy source for the brain.
Yes,
so that's also considered. Everything in moderation, right? I mean, nuts and seeds are caloric, so we don't want to eat a bag of them. But all of these things, a little bit every day, will help to support the brain. The other thing you have to look at...
And also a lot of vegetables and fruits, because of all colors.
So let's talk about vegetables and fruits.
Okay, yeah,
because
go ahead.
One of the things that we watch and that we're concerned about are pesticides and herbicides and things that are sprayed on our fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So the Environmental Working Group, or EWG.org, has a list that they update every year of the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen.
Yes.
And those are foods, the Dirty Dozen are the foods that you really want, if you eat them regularly, you want to try to buy them organic. The Clean 15 are foods that you really don't have to worry about. You can buy them conventionally and just wash them well. And many of our leafy greens are the ones that we have to be most careful of, because those are the most highly sprayed. So those are things like our kale and our lettuce.
And kale used to be in the good 15, and then 1 or 2 years ago it moved to the Dirty Dozen. I think as people ate more and more kale, it became like more massively produced, because initially it was in the clean one. So the list is changing every year. Yes,
it does change, and it's based on what is being subjected to processes like spraying that are bad. Like apples are typically known to be highly sprayed. So apples as a category, or any of those soft flesh fruits like peaches and your plums, I mean, those are ones that are typically seasonal, that if you can get them organic, or if you go to a farmer's market and you can talk to the farmer, the people who are growing it, they will often tell you, our fruit is not organic, but we don't spray it.
Yes.
And because to be certified organic, some of
It's
these
almost impossible.
Well, the small farms, they incur tremendous cost.
Yeah.
But they use healthy growing, processes. So it's important it's wonderful if you can talk to the people who grow the food.
Yeah. Well, what I do anyhow, whether it's organic or not organic, I always wash my produce with, it's like a third baking soda and 2/3 water or white vinegar. This is not too expensive, and this works very well to clean your produce. Okay, so I think we got a pretty good. So yeah, omega-3, antioxidants. What else does the brain need?
Well, so you asked about supplements, and I'm not an expert on supplements, but some of the ones that we talk about are things that will reduce inflammation, like turmeric. Yes. We know the B vitamins are very helpful in helping to detoxify the body. For people who are vegetarian or vegan, you want to make sure you're getting enough vitamin B12.
As well as extra iron as well.
Yeah, and D3, we've seen, it's so interesting to look at what has been shown to be helpful for COVID. And then also what we know is just helpful for the body and the brain in general. So vitamin D is one of those. Yes. And when you couple it with K2, that combination is very powerful. And you want to make sure you're definitely getting enough vitamin D every day. Magnesium is helpful. There's a series of vitamins that really help to keep our body, all of our body systems working well.
But I think the vitamin B complex, including vitamin B12, is really known as the brain or the nerve. Yes. The nerve, like you want to keep your nerve healthy, you want to keep your brain healthy. I think everybody almost should be on a vitamin B complex because it helps you also with stress.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you're looking at these sorts of things, right? Stress. We're looking at detoxifying. We're looking at anti-inflammatory kinds of things. And we can often get these from our food or through supplementation.
And also, when we come to exercise, I had Dr. Ailey Cohen on my podcast because she just published this new book that's doing very well. I think it's How to Live Healthy in a Toxic World. Yes. And I said, okay, what can you do to detoxify your body, which we need to do? And she said, well, there's all those things about, going to have a sauna. And but she said all those detox protocols, she said, only do one thing. Eat as clean as you can and sweat and sweat and sweat. So she said you need to exercise and sweat and try, because that's going to be the best way to detoxify your body.
That's right. Yes. And also getting your heart rate up will increase blood flow, will increase oxygen to the brain, will increase your BDNF, which is this brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is so good for your brain. Yeah. So, people often ask me, like, what if you could pick one thing? I always say it's exercise, because exercise helps everything. It de-stresses, it helps you with sleep, so many benefits.
And you don't have to go running or do like super athlete exercising types. You can just walking is enough. Walking 30 minutes to 1 hour a day and walking as fast as you can. That's what I say to everybody.
As long as you get your heart rate up, I think that's the key.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you get your heart rate very high, like when you do those high intensity interval training, what you do also is that because your blood flow is going so energetically and so hard, you create microcapillaries. You can create new microcapillaries, and this is very important for your brain. So it's only benefits. So Time is flying. So before we get, I'm almost at the end of my interview, but let's talk about the Bredesen protocol. Or we
Sure.
say Bredesen, I say Bredesen. Dr. Bredesen, yes.
Dr. Dale Bredesen,
Yes,
yes.
Dr. Dale Bredesen.
So Dr. Bredesen has been doing research on Alzheimer's for about 30 years. And he was the one who came up with the idea that addressing the brain really involves there are many things that affect brain health. And if you want to improve your brain, it's what he calls a multi-therapeutic approach. And he says, and we've talked about this before. If you have 36 holes in your roof, if you plug 2, well, you're not really going to be doing much good. You really have to be looking at a whole number of things. So
Yes.
It's a lot of the things that we talked about today.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Now, one of the things Dr. Bredesen talks about that we also would promote is making sure that you don't eat for at least 12 hours between dinner and breakfast the next morning, and ideally not for 3 hours after dinner. Yeah. So you don't want to be eating, you really want to be giving your body and your digestive tract a chance to reset. The health of our microbiome is really important. We haven't talked a lot about that. This has gotten a lot more research over the last few years. And the gut, where we talk about adding probiotics, let's say, to the diet or for supplementation, very helpful. You want to keep your elimination system working well. You want to keep the food breaking down and those nutrients accessible.
And also there is what they say, there's a highway between the gut and the brain. And in fact, lack of probiotics or lack of those good bacteria is responsible for the triggering some immune diseases, as well as responsible for depression and anxiety and ADHD. So a healthy colon and also the colon is a major manufacturer of serotonin. So
yes.
The gut health, I'm glad you mentioned it, because I was like, I know vitamin B, vitamin D, antioxidants, omega-3 acid. I forget something. Yes, it is your probiotics. Yes.
Right. So Dr. Bredesen really, he talks about nutrition and he talks about exercise. He talks a lot about many of the things that we have. He also promotes this Keto Flex diet, which is a higher fat diet, so that people start to burn fat and use fat as a fuel source for the brain instead of sugar or glucose.
Which is because glucose or too much sugar is inflammatory. That's the reason.
Yes, it makes the brain insulin resistant.
Yes,
and it also it creates that cytokine storm sometimes where people, if they eat a lot of sugar, it causes inflammation.
Yes,
and that's problematic.
It's interesting what you say, Lisa, because sometimes I have some clients as a nutritionist who have serious weight to lose and are sugar addicts. And it's very interesting because in their weight loss journey, I work with them for months, because you don't lose 40 pounds in 1 month. It doesn't work, right? They have first to disinflame their body, and then only so they don't lose weight for a couple of weeks. And I have to really keep them like, don't worry, it will come. And they start to eat very healthy. And then all of a sudden, the body is not inflamed anymore and is now able to shed the pounds. So yes, sugar is it's terrible. The impact of sugar on our body, not just our brain. Dr. Bredesen, I remember, because I have his book, is also promoting not only like at least 30 minutes, he did this trial with like a few people who had moderate Alzheimer's disease, and he said, I think it was like 30 minutes of exercise, but he was also promoting 30 minutes of meditation or relaxing yoga, something that was just helping your brain to calm down. And I remember it was also in his protocol giving some melatonin to the patient, because as you get older, you don't sleep that well.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing this to help the patient sleep better.
Right. So it is that it's a complete lifestyle
Yes.
Approach.
Yeah.
And, and it's really, you really have to kind of buy into the whole approach, although you don't have to do everything perfectly. In his initial study, there were people who did, parts of different, they did some supplementation, they did some exercise, they may have done some mental stimulation exercises, and they improved quite a bit.
In fact, they improved to the point that his results, even if it was a small study, were more impressive than if people were taking those medications that cholinesterase inhibitors and so forth, whatever. And so that was impressive that he really showed that they were improving their cognitive function thanks to his lifestyle protocol. Yeah.
But, we've gotten very used to our standard American diet and our pizza and lots of dairy, which he recommends against, and, a lot of sugar. And so for some people, it's who don't really have a healthy diet, it can be a radical departure. But then again, I think as soon as you start cleaning up your diet, you notice that your brain starts to defog as well.
I think you see the results in 1 or 2 weeks. So it's like, try it, do it, like get committed, go on the Sharp Again website or buy Dr. Bredesen's book and do it, and you will see the result. I totally agree with this. So the final words, Lisa, I want to make sure I give you the opportunity to drive people to your website and to give the information about your wonderful organization.
Thank you. So we are overhauling our website. Our new website hopefully will be up by the end of the year. It is sharpagain.org. I mean, there's lots of information on there right now, but I think it will be a little bit easier to navigate when we're done.
And it's full of resources.
Lots of resources, lots of information. And I encourage people to call us if they need help. You can call us directly. Our phone number is on our website. It's 914-281-1404. And really, if you are finding that you are having some early memory issues and you want some support around it, our Sharper Minds support groups are really a great way to go. I mean, they're affordable, and we want people to be able to start taking care of their brains. I mean, I think that's what we've really seen with COVID, is that each of us has to be responsible for our health and well-being. And the healthier you can stay all the time, if you do happen to get sick, your body is able to withstand these viruses better.
Yes.
And so, it's all really an approach to living.
Yes.
And, we all indulge from time to time, but if we can kind of eat well 80 to 85% of the time and do the things that we know we should do, we'll be well ahead of the game, and we'll have a much longer health span.
Yes.
And we want to live healthier longer. That's I think really the goal for so many people.
And you will make your brain happy and healthy. So thank you so much, Lisa. It was really a wonderful interview. I always love to share all those great services and community, programs with my audience. So it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Make Your Brain Happy. Have a wonderful, long, and fruitful life. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Make Your Brain Happy podcast. This episode was recorded by Veronique Cardone and produced by HG Media. If you enjoy our podcast, please share it with your friends. You can find our podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to podcasts.